Welcome, folks. This is Matt for another Primal podcast. I'm your host, as always, and I'm excited to be with you today. The podcast is always brought to you by Primal Health and Nutrition, where they are bringing us back to our roots. As mentioned in previous podcasts, this podcast and many others will be available to you on primalhn.com, the Primal Health and Nutrition website, under the blog tab, where you can obtain this and much more knowledge about the AIP, Paleo, SCD, or keto diets for free. I can't imagine there are too many companies or people giving away such depth and incredible knowledge as this. All it takes is the time to listen, and it will enlighten your day. Last week we finished up our last installment of the AIP, what we call no-nos, those foods that aren't to be consumed while living the AIP diet. We discussed the gluten cross-reactive foods, but this week, since we have told you all that you are to avoid and not eat, we are going to tell you what you can consume and embrace. For as many foods as there aren't allowed on the AIP diet, there are just as many that you can consume. That's probably excluding all the numerous processed foods that provide the least amount of nutrition. But if you're looking at real food, there are just as many options as you would be able to eat any other way. But you have to be creative. So what can you eat? After learning what you can eat, it may be frustrating to even begin the AIP diet. But we are going to discuss 6 different options, and I guess you could say food groups, of those things that you can eat that will serve as ingredients to several other tasty meals in the future. The first option, numero uno, that you can't consume on the AIP diet are colorful fruits. Colorful vegetables and fruits, sorry. I want to emphasize the vegetables, though, because as we've discussed in previous podcasts, the fruit is somewhat limited because the recommended amount of fructose intake is between 10 and 20 grams per day. So colorful vegetables and fruits. Why does the color matter? It all culminates into one word, and that's phytochemicals. This is the natural occurring substance of plants, which acts as antioxidants and is essential to help regenerate different functions in the body. So that's first option. And there's plenty of things you can do with colorful vegetables and fruits. The nice thing is to begin, just slice them up and eat them. You can become more and more creative as you go along, but people try a little too hard to mimic those foods they once ate, and it can be frustrating if you're trying to relive the life that you once lived with your new life. So I think the key in this situation, when you look at this array of different ingredients and foods, is that you are stepping into a new life, and your meals don't have to be the same as they once were. So on to the next option. Option 2 are cruciferous vegetables. It's kind of a funny word, but fun to say, cruciferous. Anyways, they are vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, kale, and things like that. And they're called crucifix vegetables because the plants that grow them typically have a cross-like feature in the leaf or something to that effect. Not to mention, crucifix vegetables contain tons of vitamin K and omega-3 fatty acids, which do help regulate inflammatory system responses. So crucifix, say it with me, crucifix. That is the next option on the line. The next is the third option, is a little more meaty, and it's the fish and shellfish option. It is recommended that these are wild caught because of the way that fish and shellfish are raised. In commercial fish feed, the commercial fish feed is typically consists of things like grains and vegetable proteins, and similar types of things like that. At first glance, this may not be a terrible thing, but if your bodies are ultra sensitive to gluten, then it may be something to consider. This may also not be as much of an option if you have an allergy to fish or shellfish, obviously. Shellfish is particularly a more common allergen out there, so something that you'd want to avoid. Outside that, they are loaded with anti-inflammatory agents, including the long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, DHA and EPA. They are easily digestible, and they're pretty tasty as well. I do have another 3 options that I'd like to discuss that will make the AIP diet all that much better. But first, I want to throw a little bit of love towards our sponsors, Primal Health and Nutrition. They have the cleanest paleo and AIP grass-fed beef protein collagen on the market. What makes it so clean? First, it is grass-fed as opposed to the run-of-the-mill options. Second, it does not include any excipients like silica, which only serve the needs of the manufacturer. Third, it includes an organic superfood blend, which also includes colorful vegetables and fruits, cruciferous vegetables, leafy greens, and fibers. Fourth, all other ingredients are organic, and they do not use gums or coagulating agents. Lastly, it is safe for those living the AIP, Paleo, SCD, which is specific carbohydrate diet, and keto diets. So if you haven't tried the Paleo Perfection protein powder, then now is the time. With 3 amazing flavors, including natural, which is unflavored, cherry chocolate, the chocolate is by Carob, and vanilla banana, you can find what you need to best supplement your diet and taste buds. Go to primalhn.com, click on store, choose the product that best fits you, and check out. And at checkout, use the coupon code PRIMALPODCAST to receive an additional 10% off your first order. Again, that's primalhn.com, store, pick your product, and use the coupon PRIMALPODCAST to receive an additional 10% off your first order. Okay, let's get on to the last 3 options and the bonus option for those if those items didn't seem like they were enough to consume on the Autoimmune protocol diet. The 4th option is fruits, plain and simple. As long as you don't exceed the 10 to 20 grams of fructose intake each day, then all other fruit options are typically fine, even if they aren't overly colorful. The colorful ones are more beneficial for the reasons we discussed earlier, but be careful, because our bodies will react differently to different types of fruits, and if they aren't treating you right, so to speak, then you need to eliminate them. And when I say the difference between a colorful fruit, it's not necessarily the outer peel, it's sometimes the if you're not going to consume the outer peel, for example, a red apple, if you're consuming the skin, then that's great for you. But like a banana, you might have a bright yellow, but you're not consuming the peel, you're consuming the banana itself. So that's kind of the differentiation that you make between the bright ones and the not so bright ones. But like I said, either of them are pretty much good. The brighter ones are better, but you're fine to go for the fruits too, as long as you're not over the 10 to 20 grams of fructose intake per day. On to option 5 is high glycemic foods. So foods that aren't typically found in a regular grocery store, unfortunately, because this consists of things like bone broth, connective tissue, joints, skin, and organ meats. This would be something that's more appropriate for a specialty market or store, and it's the reason they're so good for us is because of the amino acids and the way that they help our muscles, cognitive, and metabolic functions. So, and I'd like to make another quick note for Primal Health and Nutrition that their grass-fed beef collagen comes with bone and adhering meat or connective tissue. Just saying. Anyway, on to our 6th option, not last nor least, is green vegetables, with an emphasis on leafy greens. Leafy greens are low in fat, high in folic acid, and are loaded with dietary fiber. Fiber, I don't know if I can emphasize this anymore, but fiber is pretty important particularly when you're beginning a diet like this for being regular, if you catch my drift. If your leafy greens are a bit darker, then this means that there's a little bit more lutein in them and zeaxanthin, which help with your eye health. So another little bonus there if you're having a kale or a spinach, that's kind of along those lines. If you're having a lettuce, not so much, but those darker ones are a bit better in that regard. Lastly, and this is the bonus option, I'm probably guessing everyone knows, but it's the Paleo Perfection protein, which includes all of these different options except for the fish and shellfish, obviously. But it does include the colorful vegetables, the fruit, the cruciferous vegetables, other fruit, high glycemic foods, glycine foods, and leafy greens. Don't if you're looking for any other option that serves all of these options, then you're looking in the right place. This is the one-size-fits-all type thing, and go give it a try. Thanks for joining us. Again, I'm Matt, your host, and we'll see you next time, folks.